thinking about good leadership and where we can find it, wondering if mentorship and cheerleadership still matters? Consider good leadership ain't about power and position. It's about guiding people, about lifting, teaching, and cheering others forward to fulfill their vision and their purpose. And that's something to think about.
Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles.
So we have tonight to help us with this conversation a young lady, this beautiful lady we see on the screen. We introduce her as Dr. Debbie Bartlett, but she's a lady of elegance and beauty who back in the day, when you look at her too hard, the elders would slap us up beside her head and say, boy, you're troubling, you're telling yourself that. Go by your business. You're too young. You ain't know nothing about that. Then next we knew her when she was Miss Bartlett, the entrepreneur, broadcaster extraordinaire, pioneering media executive, business strategist, and visionary leader whose work through my direct direction would have been through the CEO network. And I still have the folder, and it's on my desk with some of the notes in it too, right? So, and she has shaped countless of other entrepreneurs, etc., and professionals like myself across the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and even the world. And then, as a disciple of the mighty Dr. Munroe, who witnessed firsthand the mentorship and leadership model that Dr. Munroe lived, tonight she will help us unpack how those principles of guiding, encouragement, and leadership can reunite our nation's potential. Then, with Doc, and now Doc, you rose and faster than model bakery bread and still rising all the way up to, I think it's the Order of Merit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Bam, bam, biggity, boom. So you're down to earth. So I want to know what name you want me to call you tonight. I could call you from the Queen's proper English all the way down to where you say cuz kind of thing. You know, we used to call everybody cuz when you're growing up.
You call me cuz, you call me Debbie, you can call me whatever you want. You have that license.
Well, welcome to Something to Think About. Now, how was your day?
I had a great day. But listen, can I just take a minute to just thank you for the invitation and commend you for the great work. I love the intellectual capital that you have, but it's just so creatively packaged with the Bahamian culture. And it's something that makes a people strong when we know, we honor, and we interact with our culture every day. And I think we're able to integrate rich knowledge with our Bahamian dialect, and even the way you presented your intro. It's really good, and I honor you for that. And sometimes when you are trailblazer in how you express yourself, and I think you were one of those trailblazers, it's going to catch on. And every day we're in another step into the future. Your work is going to be preserved as legendary. It takes time, it's a process. And so, we understand the value of what you do.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's coming from you. That's super special, because people you don't know. This lady is misbroadcasting. I could go on for days of hearing those voices on the radio and the blah 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 and all that kind of stuff. You know, so
Thank you.
cool. You're welcome and thank you. And I received all of that what you just told me. And one thing we definitely have in common besides other things would be is Dr. Myles. And I wasn't where you were, but from a distance, I loved tuning into what he had to say. And whenever I believed or heard that he would be preaching, we would try to make our way to hear what he had to say because it was always something positive and constructive that will help us grow from strength to strength.
Absolutely. I'll tell you how I met Pastor Myles. There's this young man named Phil Burrows. He is still attending Bahamas Faith Ministry. He's the brother of Pastor Dave Burrows. He was a friend of mine, and I was a little disturbed because I recorded a song called Morning Glory, and I did it in prayer. I was inspired to write, and a couple pastors said that it was devil music because it was written as contemporary gospel. How could this be defined as devil when this was birthed in the presence of God? And Phil Burrows said to me, "Let me take you to meet a man. His name is Myles Munroe." And he secured a meeting with me as he was the deputy director of education. And I remember there, down by Shirley Street,
Right.
where Antiquities, and he was there in the attic. And that was the first class from a biblical scholar who is a trail and was a trailblazer. And there's so much that he's contributed to this country that we may not have yet the full appreciation. And one of those areas was in music. And he said to me, "By your words, you're justified. By your words, you're condemned." And so, with the rake and scrape or reggae or R&B doesn't change its meaning. It is what you say or what you sing. And that was so liberating. And we went on to, we invited him, Dr. Emmy Achara,
My uncle.
your uncle. And this, you have to make sure Sanovi gets this tape. I love her so much. And we have agreed to work together because Dr. Emmy Achara was one of the mentors and donors of Pastor Myles. He would really help him in the early stage of his ministry. So Dr. Achara and I partnered for a Candy Staten concert and a Jesus March. And he was Pastor Myles was just so happy. And I'm speaking about his spirit when you're talking about building a nation and mentorship, because, mentorship is that experience and trusted advisor. And so he had a perspective on music that we had never heard. And so he advised us for the march. He did not only advised us, he supported us. And we Dr. Chara and I, and he joined in with us. Ponciana was a real big thing then. And it was the first time that the Ponciana, an event at the Ponciana, attracted over 4,000 people. It was
Wow.
overflowing,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to hold it over for another day. And so that's how I met him. And from there, he used to have the church on, it was Central Furniture down
Right.
on Bay Street now.
Bay Street, yeah.
Yes.
I think
And
601 is was
no,
last there or
just
something.
further down from that, it was in the furniture store.
Oh yeah, that's right. All right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so Philip Burrows invited me to one of the church services from there. And Jeeves, he had his acoustic guitar and his boots, sitting on a high chair and playing praise and worship.
Mm-hmm.
What an experience, because I came from an Anglican background.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were the gifts of the Spirit. Well, at that time, I got saved from Baptist Bible. And so Baptist Bible is like
Yeah.
he started with word of knowledge and laying hands and people being healed, and that was like, oh wow. So I started attending more. I was still at Baptist Bible, and Pastor Howard Mills is just really a great leader, and love him to life.
Mm-hmm.
We went there, you remember now, then we went down to the Royal Bahamian Hotel.
Yeah,
Because
I remember there. I never went there, but I remember when Pepe and everybody else was going all these different places, following, and you know, just as you said, um, in the Anglican church, everybody was like, "Oh, no, don't go for with them people," you know, Baba, they called, they this, they that, whatever, you know, and the Anglican church back then didn't even have drums in the church or anything like that. It was
oh no.
so. I wouldn't speak about the Catholic Church, but you know, me, I really was just into the word. I wasn't into any of those symbolisms and what have you. To me, it was if the priest wasn't saying something sensible, my head was torn out. I was not a good Christian back then.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what he did was he brought a fresh and appealing perspective
Mm-hmm.
that was easily applied for everyday living. And then particularly when he talked about your potential and your and your purpose
Mm-hmm.
and leadership. And we saw the growth. We had the Royal Bahamian Hotel, and it wasn't long before the crowd demanded a bigger space. And then
Mm-hmm.
we moved into Mackey Street.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so we moved into Mackey Street, and listen to me. Did you go to Mackey Street? Is that
I
what?
went a couple of times to Mackey Street. Yeah. Not that I was supposed to go, but I went.
Yeah, like you said, it was like taboo. Hey,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
well, I started going regularly on the Wednesday night on Mackey Street. I remember I took one of my godchildren there, and when the worship experience started and there was tongues, she was so afraid she ran and left me. I had to go and run. I had to go and run after her, but
Mm-hmm.
I I took Candy there, Candy
Okay.
Stigman,
Mm-hmm.
and she leaned over to me in the service and she said, "This is the church you belong. This is where you belong."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, in those days, the glory of the Lord was so thick, people would accuse Pastor Myles of, of putting fog in there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
No, I don't remember the details, but I just remember everybody was like, "You gotta watch what you say, and you can't, and don't like that girl. She go in there, and you can get the, you know, what on you, and all kind of stuff." You know, people was talking all kind of crazy things.
Yeah, they used
Yeah,
to say BFM is bring funds to Miles.
yeah, but that too.
But After a while, because I really loved the church I attended, there are people of integrity. I got saved there. I'm grateful. It was very hard because there was no problem. I had no problem with the church, but Pastor Myles was offering something that was different, that was new. And as I got into the word, I could relate to what he was saying, dealt with the holistic person.
Right.
He dealt with business, he dealt with politics in such a different way, more of contributing ideas for legislation and policy, not the not being vocal on the local political front.
Or
More,
ritualistic. Yeah.
yes, but more of these are the policies that we need for a righteous nation. And so it was very appealing. And then I introduced him to media. I was at ZNS at the time, and so it was his idea. He said, "Now listen, I don't want regular Christian program
Right.
on Sunday." And at the time, I had the influence, and I produced 3 programs for him. One was called Effective Living, which was the traditional expected program for a church on Sundays. The other one was a program called Choices. And what I would do is, and both of us really, we would sit down and co-produce it, but I would bring the politicians and the business leaders to be interviewed. So we would be very practical in our approach with socioeconomic issues,
Right.
with a biblical perspective. And that was a very popular program. I would co-host with him, Dr. Pinder, Richard Pinder, his vice president, and pastor. Eventually Pastor Myles became senior pastor, and Pastor Richard pastor. So that was the beginning. And what I would do, there was the relationship with the newspapers and with ZNS, and I would take the programs that we produce and produce reports for television. And particularly Tony Capron was the managing director of The Guardian at the time. And I would say to Tony, I said, Tony, you know what? Pastor Myles is saying some very important national perspectives, giving national perspectives that that the people of the Bahamas need to hear. Because I said that to him because at that time the church news was only covered in the religious section. And I would say, no, this is not just for the church. Yes, but I suggest the headline is, let's put this is headline news.
Right. Right.
And he would agree. And thanks to him, he would give us that front page coverage, and then the other media followed suit. And so that was the branding exercise. And so what I'm saying here is that the Lord used me in a very significant way to brand him nationally, to make him known nationally. And the other program we did, and I co-hosted with him for most of it, was and we worked along with the pastor for music and worship at that time and media before I joined, Pastor Wesley Smith. He was the foundation. And I came on, they embraced me, and we did a show on Mondays that I got on ZNS. And again, I don't think it even exists today. We have a gospel station now. At that time, we didn't have a gospel station, but we would have an hour program called Music to Believe in, the contemporary music. The contemporary music was the devil music. That's what happened with me with Morning Glory. But now just look at it. Everybody, even the Anglicans using, and the Catholics, I don't know about the Catholics, but but you would see that it is now a part of the worship experience in the Bahamas to have praise and worship songs. And Pastor Myles pioneered that.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that he would have done and so forth, and have an influence on people. And so something to think about remembers some of these things, and I paraphrase some of what he said in this quote here I have on the screen. True leadership is not about power, it's about empowering others. Mentorship is the bridge between potential and purpose. Cheerleadership, my word, I think he used a different word, but he said, is the art of lifting others until they can fly on their own. And direct quote, when you build people, you build nations. So I have a couple of questions on that for you. And one of them is this. You were with Pastor Myles' disciple, I would say. How did his understanding of purpose shape his approach to mentorship? And how has that influenced your own journey as a leader and builder of people?
It was the first time I heard the meaning. You can use words all the time and really don't have the full understanding of the meaning. And you may know vaguely or broadly, but I could not understand every Sunday, every Wednesday, Pastor Myles started off with the potential message. He moved into the purpose.
Right.
But in essence, he would tell us, you're born in the image of God. The image means to act like. And so greatness is in you.
Yeah.
You don't have to pray for that. It is what you do. The first thing you do is you must find your purpose.
Right.
And the purpose means the reason you were born. So your DNA is embedded, greatness is embedded in your DNA. But to give your DNA direction, you need to know why you were born.
Right.
In today's terms, it's like the GPS, the guide. Yep. That's what you're talking about, leadership. That leadership really means to go and to guide. But he also taught, and he connected the dots, that there's potential in you. You find your purpose, and your purpose gives birth to your vision. That's your GPS.
Right.
I say it this way. Your vision gives you a glimpse of the future. It is what you are passionate about. And with what you were born to do, you are responsible for two things. You are responsible to advance the kingdom of heaven, because what earth is for is a colony of heaven. See, I never heard those kinds of. So the image of God is intended and is purposed to dominate industry. Revelation on that because of his teaching that came as I go through it. But what does that mean? If we don't understand that we have the potential to be great, it's in our DNA, and our potential is expressed, manifested through our purpose, and our purpose is the reason we were born. What is it that we are passionate about? When we focus on what we are passionate about, we can see your assignment to be a journalist, to be a scientist, an innovator. What is that thing that you are so passionate about?
Right.
That you're always thinking about, and that guides you in what you study, because wealth is in knowledge.
There you go.
And then you have the understanding that skilled men performs before kings, and as a king calls on your skill, there's more demand for what you do, which increases your value, that gives you access to assets. So what am I saying?
Yep.
What he taught us, we were born to be governed by prosperity. We were born in the presence of, in his presence, and that is what the kingdom is.
Mm-hmm.
The kingdom. You ever been to Buckingham Palace?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a calming? That's a kingdom, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that a? It is. It's a calming feeling. You don't have loud cursing. Everything, the landscaping is perfect.
Discipline.
Architecture is beautiful. The protocols are, everything represents excellence. That's like representing the colony of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
In heaven, there are the streets of gold. There's no poverty, but it requires a mindset. And so what we learned from Pastor Myles is that we were born to be rulers of industry. That's the first time I heard about the Dominion Mandate. He talked about that. The Dominion Mandate means you're supposed to master industry.
Right.
We are supposed to be rulers, and a ruler is a what? A ruler is a leader. So our general purpose is to lead in our purpose. Like the ant who needs no commander. They don't need a spearhead leader. They work together. They work as a team. And so, how does his teaching continue to influence me? So I learned that from him. And as you study, you get your own variation. Some of what I said is what I got from studying from him.
Right.
But also, what he did when you talk about cheerleading, because a cheerleader strongly and openly supports a cause or another person.
Right.
He empowered, because what he taught was you are already authorized to be empowered from your very purpose. But you're required to be in an environment that recognizes your gift, supports your gift, and I'm going to use your word. You need that cheerleadership. So how did he do that? He was excellent on delegating authority. He was one of the first, if not the first, to put an organizational and business structure together for the church. So in BFM, I was there for 32 years. In BFM, it was set up just like a corporation with a heart. So you had vice presidents and directors and assistant directors of just about every department, whether it was human resources, media, music. Well, we did not come up in churches. In the Anglican church, in my background, in the Baptist later with Baptist Bible, that had all of this structure.
Right.
That taught you protocols, and you had to submit to the protocols of what that structure was. And there was business development. And I remember one day, and he watches and evaluates, and that's where I get the term from. It opportunity is always watching and evaluating you and I. I thought about that as I observed how he led, and he called a few of us out. Pat Rowe, the captain that went down in the plane, Dr. Chara, Thurston, Pastor Richard, and it may have been one or two more of us. Yes, it was. But the point is, he said, listen, we have to be investors in our country. Did you know that? And do you know what we did? You know where Andrew Aiken is now?
Yep.
Andrew Aiken has that place now, but that used to be a Shell station.
Okay.
Yes, and Pastor Ruth used to be the administrative assistant to the CEO of Shell at the time. And it was around the same time that Pastor Myles started getting invitations to travel. And he said, I don't want Ruthie working because our children, and when I go on the road, I
Right.
need her to be with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he determined that as a revenue stream, he would secure the franchise, the Shell franchise, and he invited us to invest with him.
Mm-hmm.
So we did. And it was very successful, but we started to have challenges with work ethic and honesty. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
needed somebody who was an owner to be there to
Yeah.
watch the money, you know? And that's unfortunately some of the, I don't hear it talked about, but some of the unemployment that we are experiencing as a result of dishonesty,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? And so, because all of us had our different investments and career responsibilities, we couldn't be there every day, but it was a successful enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought that the margins were just too high in terms of stealing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we hung on to it a little too
Longer.
long,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to then all of us um, pay back what we owed because of what we were losing through stealing.
Right. Right.
Yes, so I'm just saying what that did. It did not disturb him. There were one or two other businesses that some of us, Richard Demerit, the former Auditor General, Dr. Richard Demerit,
Mm-hmm.
and Pastor Miles. A lot of people don't know how close they were because, and I made that introduction. As a matter of fact, Dr. Demerit is the one I went to when we were starting the media department when I joined.
Right.
And I went to Dr. Demerit. I said, we're starting a media department. You have these cameras here. Give it to BFM, please. And he did. And so we started there. But out of that, there were different areas that we ventured into. And that's when he started moving into real estate, investing in real estate. So what am I saying? He believed in ownership for Bahamians. He facilitated opportunities for Bahamians. He wanted to get into the lives of those Bahamians attending the church or just
Mm-hmm.
people. I don't want to just say Bahamians because, as we know, Dr. Chara is from Nigeria,
Syria. Right.
and we and you we learned do good to the foreigners. Anybody who is building the country deserves the respect. As a matter of fact, Abraham was sent out of his country to get more wealth.
Right.
And so that wasn't the point. But the point is, he talked about kingdom and explained the responsibility of rulership, that's through leadership, to have territory, to be an influence in the territory of your nation and to the world.
Right. And you mentioned those building blocks of businesses and enterprises and stuff like that. And I think there was some involvement. I know Dr. Charo was with Trinity Airline also. And so when we look at that, how did Dr. Myles personally mentor or challenge you in ways that shaped your leadership philosophy and deepened your sense of purpose?
He would um, he was a hands-on person to the leaders that he met.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that was Dr. Achara, you talked about Trinity, that was Dr. Achara's brainchild.
Right.
And he took on the ownership spirit. Like he treated the project like it was his own, with meetings and counsel and any support. If Pastor Myles, if you needed his support on your job, he was going to be right there. When you're developing a vision and reducing it to paper for a proposal or a business plan, he would be right there. He was a prolific writer,
Right.
very, very smart. And throughout the season of that mentorship, I think, Dr. Chara, there were a few of us who were more involved with interacting with him than most people would know.
Right.
Um, him and Pastor Richard. Pastor Sheena would always say, and I bring in Pastor Richard because I was his brother-in-law, but they had a great relationship.
Right.
And BFM is strong because he had a strong team. And Pastor Sheena would know that there were some of us who would be talking to both Pastor Myles and Pastor Richard every day or almost every day. So can I tell you with something may surprise you? We mentored each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not bashful.
Right.
So there were aspects, as I said, he's very smart, but then he was not really exposed to the business and political culture.
Right.
So people like Dr. Chara and I would think, Pat Roll, I think we were very instrumental
And
in
helping.
helping him, Richard Demerit, in a very huge way as well. As a matter of fact, Richard Demerit, Pastor Richard and I worked very closely with him in those matters. But he mentored us spiritually so that anything that we did, we have this awareness that we have to find the scripture to know that we are submitting to the word, that we are not departing from the word in our feelings. But as I said, he was a prolific writer, and he would always bring you back on course. Is this the vision? What is it going to take for you to fulfill the vision?
Mm-hmm.
What is the structure that you need? He was masterful with that. I think I learned a lot about, in practical terms, even though I have to give the credit for the Broadcasting Corporation and my exposure there. But when it really comes down to the science of organizational structure and not just going by a book, but understanding the environment it needs for that vision to function, I learned that from Pastor Myles. I learned from Pastor Myles that before we talk about what a structure is and what a goal is, that we agree on what the vision is. And we look to the future. And he would always say it, start from the big picture, look at the big picture, and start with where you are. And what are the steps? All great things begin small. And what are the steps that we need to take to get to that world that I'm aiming to go? So he was not in global demand when he started.
Right.
He always knew that he was going to the world based on his vision. And so we were able to be eyewitnesses and how his faithfulness over the small starts in the furniture building in Royal Bahamian, and there was one even before Central. I was in
Yeah.
there before
Small
this.
turbulent
House,
starts too. Right. Not
huh?
just turbulent starts. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So yeah, he and let's look at what cheerleading is again in mentorship, when you're expressing your support. And how did he express his support? Again, I believe it's a departure from the norm. There's always an exception to the rule. But he allowed his pastors to speak at different services. And he, and you know, eventually I became one of those pastors, and all of us in a month would have the opportunity to speak during the church services. He's very intentional
Right.
about mentoring. I remember when I went on my first mission trip with him in Trinidad, he said to me, "You have to fast for 2 weeks." I said, "What?" This is what you mean, fast? Only water. He said, "We're going to cast out some demons." I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, Lord." So when we went to Trinidad, we went to this church that he was speaking to, and the altar was crowded. I'd never forget. And he said, "Debbie, come and help me." He was casting out demons. I said, "Oh my God, what is this?" I mean, so he would baptize you with fire,
Mm-hmm.
but only if he knows that you're sufficiently grounded in the word. And of course, I had obeyed, and that was the first experience. So whatever he does, whether it was the ministry on the mission field, the preparation for business or your career, can I tell you that when I used to do reaction, I would call him,
Mm-hmm.
run ideas. I want to do this. What do you think about that? Oh, yes, yes. And he would make a contribution. And it's the same way that I would do, and he would do with choices that he hosted. We would brainstorm together to know what to cover, how to cover it, what is the best angle like to produce. But that was his style, period.
Right.
Whether Pastor Henry and finance. And can I tell you something? One of the most unfortunate and fortunately the truth out, time exonerates you. But Pastor Miles was one of the most integrous, financially integrous leaders you would want to know.
Mm.
They would call him, bring funds to Miles, but can I tell you, he didn't sign off on checks?
No, I'd heard that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, he did not sign off on checks. And can I also tell you, now BFM funded him when he initially went on trips. Then, as the demand grew, of
Right.
course, something different. He was one of the most highest paid pastors, and his books would be selling
Sauce. Right.
as a source of income. But for many years, he let all of that money stay in the church. I served on the board of governors, and the board of governors was instrumental in saying to him, "You have your children and your family. You need to start taking your royalties, which was significant amounts. You need to take your royalties
Mm-hmm.
for you." So what I'm saying, he was generous
Mm-hmm.
in advancing the vision for Bahamas Faith Ministries, and I'm so glad that we did that, because it wasn't many years afterwards that um, he transitioned.
Right. Right. Yeah. So when we look at these things, then, um, could you share a defining moment or a conversation with Dr. Miles that revealed how intentional he was about developing others, not just teaching but transforming? And I know he was an awesome teacher. That's one of the reasons why I always tried to go to hear him preach. Because we didn't really call it preaching, we call it teaching, because he made you feel like you really was learning so much. And in the Anglican church at the time, I didn't feel like we were learning anything. It seemed like it was just a process of going around in circles, in terms of everything was so structured. But, and some of the other denominations seemed to ramble, but he was always focused and on point, and whatever his message was for the day, he always found ways of bringing it home. So how How did
Yeah,
all of that
it's
transform
amazing
people?
that you would ask that question. It's a very good one. Um, I believe you hear with your eyes. We heard the teaching, but I'll give you one example that was a defining moment for me of what I was an eyewitness to. He was a workaholic.
Okay.
And, I was very instrumental in training the production team. And and some of the production team, most of them are working as production professionals now that came to BFM. But one night we were there, and I heard up front. We were in the back. He was up front in his office, and I think I may have stepped out of the production room for something, and I heard all of this profanity. I said, "Wait a minute now, hold on." And this guy was as drunk as a skunk. And he was crazy Pastor Myles out. Oh my God, I never heard such curse words until recently. And Pastor Myles said nothing. He just listened. He listened. And the next day or two, I saw Pastor Myles talking to that gentleman like it never happened. And I asked him what was happening, and he told me. And when he called him in for a meeting, and I don't know what he said, he was very confidential, and obviously that's the best thing to do. But I watched him mentor that young man and his family to soberness and faithfulness to the church. They became among the very faithful members of Bahamas Faith Ministries. I saw him become soft-spoken and respectful. But I can tell you something. You ain't want to cross Pastor Myles when he mad with you. He does what you would say in your Bahamian vernacular. He gives you a ling that you can, a verbal ling. When he row you, oh Lord, it isn't normal, but you realize that, you don't know what to do. It immobilizes you. So he was, even though it would appear that he may have been soft, but he can wait for you. He's not gonna get in an argument. Whatever Pastor Myles said to that young man, I saw a change in behavior. I saw a transformation in thinking. That's mentorship, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's mentorship. So this is what, when you think about it, we have Pastor Dave, who's the pastor now, who's to be in charge of the youth ministry. They used to call him the roughneck pastor.
Right.
And he did his share in mentorship. So what he did is he surrounded himself with leaders who love to help others. So it became a culture. So when you look at some of the people who are in leadership positions today in the country, who are students of Pastor Myles, the evidence in his effectiveness is in his fruit.
Yep. Yep. And he always preached about that too, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So why do you believe mentorship, talking about that just now, mentorship in the way Dr. Myles practiced it is essential for developing strong leaders, emphasize leaders and institutions in the Bahamas today?
Laws Principles. Principles never change, nor do they discriminate. Mentorship is a law of God that is usually overlooked or even not known. Because when the Lord said to us that we are to dominate the earth, dominate industry, He tells us how to do it. Be productive. Well, so our work ethic is weak and low. We slack hands is brother to him who destroys. Laziness ends in slave labor. So no Bahamian or no citizen of any nation should be comfortable with a weak work ethic, because that is tied to the quality of our destiny. But now, it's a three-pronged law. The vision is dominate industry. The laws to accomplish that, the principles to accomplish that is high levels of productivity. And then what does it say? Reproduce yourself. What is that? Mentorship, right? So it's a law. We have a responsibility when we want to release the greatness that's inside of us. We can't do it by ignoring that law. So then we have, that is what contributes to the deterioration of our socioeconomic environments, the deteriorations, even fundamentally before we get there, to our families. When we ignore that, we are supposed to reproduce ourselves and our children. We are supposed to reproduce ourselves in any environment that we are contributing to growth. We're never supposed to show up. And so we are supposed to identify the mindsets, because not every mindset is ready for mentorship. Just the other day, someone from B-Docs was saying that some of the prisoners come in and they say, I don't want change. Well, you can't put them in the class.
Right.
Because, they're not listening. But it is our responsibility to go with the coalition of the willing and mentor and understand that it is an honor when you are mentored and when you become a mentor. And the mentorship comes through experience. So we don't qualify to mentor if we don't have the needed levels of experience and skill.
Right.
And so we could be mentored by Pastor Myles today and tomorrow. I was in Wales. I was in Ghana, and one of the very top journalists over there. We were in a conversation, and he said, the first time I turned and heard about the Bahamas was through Dr. Myles Munroe. And I read all of his books. And you know what he said? I trust him. He didn't say I trusted him. I trust him. I'm still reading his books. And that's what a mentor is.
Yep.
Somebody who can communicate and share the benefit of their experience, and who is trusted, who will not betray, who will not undermine, who will give you the best advice, who will love you as you love his children or loves himself. That's who the mentor is. And Pastor Myles will be a mentor, because he would always say, put it in a book. I have a couple of books I haven't published, and one of them, he was calling from South Africa. He said, you wrote that book yet? I'm almost finished. He said, now listen, when I get back, I need that book. And he sent the instructions. Move this chapter. You're talking about mentorship, because he had more experience in book publishing. So I sent him the book, Economic Emancipation, Destination Promised Land. I sent him the book. He said, this is good. I'm going to write the foreword, but here are the chapters to move around. Make chapter 4 number 1, or whatever the chapters were.
Right.
So, but this is what I'm saying. Hands-on, mentorship. And then he'll explain why. Have you thought about this? Here and all the notes. I still have all the notes and everything that he sent. Mentorship, giving the benefit of his experience,
Right.
that you can trust that he is giving you the best experience he knows to make you better.
And it's great that he gave his experience, but to me, in the Bahamas, for people to be successful, you have to have mentors and you have to have cheerleaders. And when you have the same person doing both, then they become very efficient and becoming successful. And I saw Dr. Myles as both. Because in cheerleading, when you open doors for people, right, and you open their hope and their confidence and build all of that up so that they could go into steps where they would normally take. Because, the name by itself and also, just, I guess, the clout of some sort. When you think of that when he started, a lot of people was down on him or kicking him out or casting him and wanted to stone him, for lack of a better word. If you go back in time, they would probably do that. And to see that, he's a man that wherever he goes in the world, or wherever I went in the world, people normally ask me if I know one or two people. And that was Dr. Myles or Sir Lyndon. Excuse me. So I asked the question here. Cheerleadership is about rallying greatness within the steps through the door to open. How did Dr. Myles embody that spirit, and how have you continued that in your work?
Can I tell you a quick experience? Dr. Myles and Dr. Richard Demerit set me up to get my honorary doctorate. Alcino had this honorary doctorate program that training program for a lot of the public service, and they invited me to speak at the ceremony because they had invited me to have an honorary doctorate, and I said no. And so they invited me to speak, and they surprised me with it. And since then, I went on to get my PhD. That's the cheerleader. And what he and Dr. Demerit would say, you have done more than people with PhDs. You have accomplished. You need it. And so I must say that mentorship is something that I do naturally because my parents taught us that. They lived that. That's what I grew up with. My parents always was helping somebody.
Right.
And I was on the phone just the other day with one of the inner city influencers. They asked me to help someone, and they came on the line, and I was so touched and I was so moved. And she said, I feel safe with you, Dr. Bartlett. I knew you from a young child. I watched you come and help Debbie Simonet and Joan for years and years. You were in that community helping people. And so, whether everywhere that I go, it is not unusual for people to come to me to thank me for the role that I played in where they are today. So it's very intentional for me. And even just yesterday, a very high level corporate leader was thanking me in front of somebody else. I made an introduction for them to have a bigger international platform. And the person I was connecting them with, she was saying to them how I helped mentor her to the point where she is. So because I understand that we are stronger when we help each other succeed, because I understand that mentorship is and should not be an option. It is a law of success. It is a joy to help mentor anyone who is willing. And it's very humbling when people receive the help that you can give. And I also believe that there's an aspect of mentorship where you can mentor someone without ever really getting to know them. What do I mean? I was in Breezes speaking, and there was a long line waiting for me, and I was trying to be sensitive to the long line and not take too much time with everybody. So I wasn't thinking straight. But this young lady walked up to me, and beside her was another older person, and she said, I wanted to come out here to say thanks to you because I grew up with you on television. And I'm saying this to you, Dale. You don't know who you're inspiring, and you may not know until years later the impact that you are having on someone's life. And when we're just behind the camera and we can't see anyone, we can't see how they are responding to it. Sometimes it may feel like you're not having an impact. Sometimes it may feel that why do it? But let me tell you, this girl changed my life. She said, my mother was a prostitute and on drugs. I didn't see her. My father was on drugs, but he tried to bring me up. And I would wait for you to be on television, and I would pray to God every night that one day I'll meet you. But I didn't get to meet you, but I would keep watching. And I say, one day I am going to be like Debbie Bartlett. And she said, it gave me the hope. But I brought this lady with me. I didn't meet you, but she became my mother. You see? So, I mean, I didn't have the presence of mind to take her number, and I wish I could find her. And the final example that I would give is that I used to go to the Children's Emergency Hostel. I went to the airport flying back up and down, and the lady behind the cash register started crying. She said, you're Debbie Bartlett? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I was a resident of the Children's Emergency Hostel. And you came and you gave all the girls a doll. And that doll I held on tight. And said that was her inspiration. And after she came out of the hostel, she still held on to this doll. And she would always run to see me on television. And that would be her inspiration to move. She moved in with an aunt. And because she held on to that doll so tightly, her aunt was mean to her and destroyed the doll. She was broken. And when that doll was broken and destroyed, something snapped in her. And she went on to abuse one of her children. She flipped to what she came out of in her family environment. But she said, I went and I got help because I know it's not the right thing to do. So she was just saying how she was just coming through that healing process. Now with her own child. And when she saw me, she felt like what she could see of me on television, and when I gave her that doll, it was something that represented hope and a standard that she wanted to live to be like. So mentorship is not only to those that can touch you every day, but if they can see you, believe you, and feel your heart through this medium of television, these multimedia platforms, we can change lives.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to hold you too much longer, but if you'd be so kind to give me a couple of minutes, I got 2 or 3 questions here I want to ask for sure.
No problem.
Before we go. And so the first one is, how can mentorship and cheerleadership be institutionalized in our schools, churches, media, and public sector to ensure sustainability of national transformation in the new built environment? We didn't talk about the new built environment, but that's something that I coined in terms of, and I'll send you the information on that, but the listeners know about it.
Yes, it's a very good question. The Japanese have adjusted their methodology in raising children. They are now in many um, focusing on character development before they focus on math and other subjects. Because character, value systems, manners, respect, a good name is to be preferred over all the riches in the world. And so I have long promoted through an organization I haven't really brought to the fore in the Bahamas yet, but have a system very quietly developing in another country called the Strategic Alliance for Economic Emancipation.
Okay.
And a part of that is we have to change the curriculum. We have to change how we think. We have to get people to know that they were born to be great. But your greatness cannot survive time if we are distracted by error.
Yeah.
That's your character. So when they know that they were born to be great, but to mine the wealth that you put in and the knowledge that you put in, that's reinforcing your self-esteem, your perspective. Because the way we are educating people now is by the evidence of the environment of crime, of poverty, of conflict, of insecurities, means that we are doing something wrong. And if we want to correct that, if we know, for example, as long as Pastor Myles has been talking about purpose, we still don't understand purpose. How I know? Because I understand purpose, I know that there are exclusive opportunities assigned to my name, assigned to my purpose. So if you and I are in the media space, Dale, I'm not jealous of you. If somebody say you doing good and they prefer you over me, there are different target markets.
Yep.
There's going to be a market that prefers you, and there's going to be a market that prefers me. I love to be around greatness. I love to be around people who are doing better than me. Let me learn something from them. And I don't want your opportunity, Dale, because then I'll be signing up to be a counterfeit.
Right.
Counterfeit money spends, but only for a season. When you are doing what you were born to do, it's not a project. A project has a dead end. When you are operating from vision that is birthed from your purpose, it becomes an organism. When you run into one roadblock, your vision and purpose shows you how to get around it. And so I don't have time to waste. And people who are insecure and don't know their purpose, because purpose doesn't envy. But we have a high volume of jealousy and envy, which tells me there's low self-esteem, anemic understanding of purpose. It's that. And then we limit God, because then we really, really don't believe that God had us in mind, brought us to the earth realm for a purpose that only you can do. I can't do what you want to do.
Right.
We were born to work together, and there are different core competencies that we have, but we don't think God is big enough, smart enough, strong enough to have opportunities that expresses the greatness that's within all of us. So we are limiting God with our insecurities. And that also comes because we do not understand process. Even though you see the vision for your future of being the president of the world, like an 8-year-old told me when I was in Washington, he said being the prime minister of the Bahamas is too small. He wants to be the president of the world.
Right.
But his mother is teaching him, you got to start small, though. You You have to serve. You don't become great until you could serve somebody else's vision with excellence. Because when you serve others, that's your preparation. That's making you ready. That's equipping you with the skills that you need. David killed Goliath. The Bahamian would want to be the prime minister right away.
Yep,
No,
that's
no,
for sure.
no. David did not know the culture of the king's court. So he went as a harpist so that he could observe the culture. There's a different language in the different professions, whether it's music, whether it's IT, whether it's politics. There's a different language. You may have the raw material to work with it, but you need to learn that language. And so the process of life, the seasons in life, is there to equip us to ascend to our throne of purpose.
Wow. It sounds like we almost got past the collection rounds, Rossi.
Ah, right. You're talking about Pastor Myles. He was a pastor, right?
There
I'm
you
a
go.
student, right?
Right. So if Dr. Myles was here, seeing the challenges and opportunities of this generation, what do you think he would say to us about leadership, mentorship, and national destiny?
You know, I think, in all honesty, Dale, sometimes we overlook the progress that we are making. So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, I agree.
And if we don't see it, then we won't value it. And by extension, we would lose it. Um, but I believe that we still have work to do in broadening and diversifying the voices, the hearts, the minds that's guided by similar vision and values that is enshrined in the preamble of the Constitution. I believe that we have an opportunity to strengthen that spirit of oneness that brings a sense of ownership for every Bahamian. Ownership means the effective stewardship. We can't say it's effective stewardship. We, I mean, environment needs to be cleaner. Our work ethic needs to be stronger. Our family life needs to be. Now, we always blame the government first, No. We have to look at the thumb first. Self
In the mirror.
Just look in the mirror. Not this, this. What am I doing? Isn't that what God did? Every time he finished a phase in development, when he created the boundaries between the sand and the sea, he looked at it and he said, and this is good. Are we evaluating ourselves? Can we do like God in everything that we develop and be able to say we gave our best effort? No. We are allowing the culture of entitlement. You owe me. I don't have to wait for it to show up for 30 years. This. No. We have to look, because whatever we see in Parliament is what started from the home, what we tolerate in the community. We do not uproot the root of the problem. We can't. Pastor Miles' father, every Sunday, just about, when he was at church, he would walk past me and several others in the leadership, and he'd say, I am the root, Miles is the fruit. See? It's the same principle. Leadership looks at the root and comes with a solution to uproot any fruit that does not represent righteousness, productivity, does not represent greatness. Now, isn't that what the founding fathers said? The Bahamas is the greatest little nation in the world.
Yep.
So anything that is going to threaten the vision, the founding fathers didn't have a political label. They had patriots of the people of the Bahamas said, when we get majority rule, we will be economically independent. That is the vision of the country, but it's rooted in the word where we are paradise, which means that timeless harmony. And that is supposed to be our natural environment. Have you ever gone to Vail, Colorado? They leave all their doors open still. Just because growth comes doesn't mean crime and corruption have to take up permanent residence.
Right.
No. So we have to understand that we all have a responsibility to leadership. Isn't that what the word says? That we you and I are rulers, all of us. A ruler is a leader. A leader is somebody who guides.
Yeah.
A leader is somebody who is always on the go, but you have to know what you're guiding. So what is the guide in the home that's causing all of this molestation with these 7-year-old children? What is it? Is that the absence of leadership in the home? That's the root.
I think a dictatorship more so being acted out. Yeah.
So we're bringing up a lot of traumatized people who have not been introduced to love. People can only act on what they know. And so we and leadership have to raise our appreciation, sensitivity, awareness, and commitment, as we know that great leaders live in 3 tenses: the past, the present, and the future. And even if we are not committed to the extent that some of us are, the word, just look at great empires. How did Roman Empire fall? How did the Greek Empire fall? Every great empire fell because of immorality, and strong leadership falling to compromise on what they know is wrong. And so, again, principles don't change, nor they discriminate, no matter if they did it in the Roman Empire. Actually, the Greeks was bigger than the Romans, and the Greeks were the first ones who built the roads, but they didn't do it in a more excellent way. And the Romans said, listen to me, let's make these roads better. So I've been to Rome, and the road's still there. And they said, if what we're going to learn from the Greeks is we're going to do it better, and we are not going to tolerate the level of immorality, and we are going to appoint censors to make sure that we protect our land. Those were the 3 commitments they made. But when the empire grew, they forgot their commitments. Wow. They forgot the foundation. They fell. We have a foundation that's built on those similar principles. That is Sodom and Gomorrah, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire. Principles don't change, nor do they discriminate.
Nah, that's the word. That's the word. But I think you're gonna top that off right now with this final question I have. But I ask all the guests: if you had to lead one guiding principle for the Bahamians, and when I define Bahamians, that's not citizens. That's all people of the 242 who helped us build our country. I call them Bahamians. So, guiding principle, one light to carry forward, what would it be?
I agree with you. Bahamians is anybody who develops this country. As a matter of fact, the word says, do good to the foreigners. That's another law. Any foreigner that is building your nation is a part of the people of that nation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's when you break the law, that's a different thing. But Jesus Christ gave his life because he loved us. Love is known by the action it prompts.
Mm-hmm.
Love has companions, companions of compassion, companions that just gives you this desire to help others. As I was talking to you, there was a lady who was homeless. I've been working with her for the last couple of days, and I just love working with her as she has been homeless with her daughter
Mm-hmm.
and working through some stuff. But what strikes me about her is that she is so grateful.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you love, you're grateful, you're thankful,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the state is that you're in, because you're motivated by where you're going. And when we have more love, like, I want you to succeed, dear. I want you to influence the world. I want you to have a book that can go into the school. That's what's wrong in our schools, you asked earlier. This is what love does.
Mm-hmm.
To give the body of knowledge that motivates the human potential into action, give them the guidance that will give them a generational legacy that speaks to hope to those who may be hopeless like Noah. What is hope? Hope is favorable expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And we can, you know why they have that hope? Because they know there are some mentors like you and me and others who may be listening and who will listen in the future,
Mm-hmm.
who see guided by love, because love will not harm. Love guided by vision and values will transform our personal, our family, our national, and like Pastor Myles would say, our national, because we are commanded to rule the earth. That's the whole world. He didn't say rule Athens. He didn't say just rule New Providence. He said rule the earth. The
Mm-hmm.
influence that's in you, that's waiting to be developed, is going to come out of you with love, with compassion, with diligent. Diligent hands will rule. See, this love gets you up every morning. I get up every morning. I race the clock when it's necessary because I love the
Mm-hmm.
Bahamas. When I was in North Carolina, consultant to the late Joe Dudley, who just died a couple months ago, um, I worked in the office of Mayor Bill Campbell. I was
Mm-hmm.
here only maybe a couple of days out of the week, just flying in and out and do the CEO network. And one day I was in, and this is the beauty of the relation, having a personal relationship with the Lord. I was in my suite up at Dudley's, and the Lord said to me, I want you to make your headquarters, because like Pastor Miles, you don't feel wanted in your country. You feel more tolerated. So I was having a hooty tooty time, flying all around the place, getting the kind of financial compensation that demonstrated that you're valued. Who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like to be in that environment? So
Right.
I had no intention of really coming home, because I was doing really well, and I came home. But since I am directed to come home, and unless he tells me to leave, you get up with that love, that determination, and that trust. That's what the mentorship is. The trust in the mentor of all mentors, that the Lord has a plan. We're going to come through this. We are going to be high, get higher, and the record will show in the future that we have given our best to mentor, inspire, and help as many people as we can.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time. You're a very busy lady, and I so busy, so till I was almost getting a little antsy, and I normally don't get antsy. That this wasn't going to be able to happen. But I'm so glad that you were able to take the time and drop all these nuggets on the table, because I'm sure the young folks and some who might be young at mine can tap into it and learn a lot that could help them advance themselves from light to light. And it's always a pleasure to have my mind expanded, because I always tell people this is what I try to do, is to expand other people's minds. So
I'm telling you, I'm very humbled. I'm so grateful to you, and I truly hope it's inspired someone and some folks. And again, I believe in you. Again, as Ambassador Myles used to say, I will see you at the top.
Mm-hmm. Philippines 1:4, I think, was the one he always used to tell me. I should memorize that by now, but anyway. Cool. Well, like I said, thank you again, and we will see you. I'm going to look out for that book that you said you wrote that you haven't published yet.
Yes.
That's what we hold you to that one.
Yes, I'm going to work on one of the books right now.
Cool. All right, so we'll talk under the tree again.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much once again.
You're welcome.
All right.
So, folks, you've been watching Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, and we've had the lovely Dr. Debbie Bartlett on, who walked us through some of the things and experiences with Dr. Myles Munroe, a mentor extraordinaire, a cheerleader extraordinaire, the ultimate leader. Helped a lot of people around the world, not just in the Bahamas. And many of his books are still available, so I get mentorship from them all the time. I pick up a book and just start reading a piece of it and then put it back on the shelf. And so I'm not one to read from cover to cover, but I grab pieces that is appropriate to me and the things that I'm doing today and so forth. So we'd like to thank you for watching. Sorry I forgot to let you know that you could ask questions and so forth. But, just hit the share and like and also subscribe so that you get all our shows and come on, and now you would know that you could always ask questions or even in the chat after the show. So until next time on the same Bat channel, then, we want you to be peaceful, use the information you got, strengthen yourself, and rise like the eagle. That's one of Dr. Myles' famous animals that he loved, the eagle and the lion. So when you read his books, you'll learn more about those and why he favored them so much. Till next time, peace out.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative, 242.